Hey guys, welcome to the webinar on business development for clinical services. I apologize for not being able to record the live version of this, but I am re-recording it for you for anyone who missed it. We will go into some of the details of contracting and some sales tips and tricks that will help you navigate growing your markets. Before we get into it, though, I want to introduce myself. My name is Logan McKnight, and I have been in medical device for 19 plus years. I have been in neuromonitoring for the most of my career. I've been building relationships, managing accounts, negotiating contracts, and then I've also been overseeing a medical distributorship and then been a metal rep in spine surgery. So outside of that, I was a VP and then a CEO for my neuromonitoring company. We also provided technical service, professional services with neurologists. We had a medical billing company where we did more than just neuromonitoring and out-of-network billing. We also did dental billing, private practice billing, and quite a few other things. And then in 2017 to 2023, I was helping start and run a medical service company in Chennai, India. So been a lot of places, done a lot of things. But what I do now is I run an executive coaching and consulting firm. I am focused on leadership development and coaching executives in med tech and medical service companies to help them do things better without burning out. That was a huge problem when I was an executive. And so I'm hoping on the other side of things to be able to help people in their leadership space. So I provide one-on-one group coaching, organizational consulting, corporate workshops, and then speaking engagements. And so if you like these free webinars, these are the ways that I actually pay my bills. And so please, if you like them, share my services, share my content. It really helps me. If you like what I'm doing here and you recommend me to your company and we end up working together on the corporate side, I do offer a $2,000 free coaching package to anybody who gets me referred to their company. So feel free to reach out and hopefully that benefits you. And please, I will send out a survey after this. If you could respond to it, it really helps me with future webinars. And I love doing these and I'm looking at doing some future master classes. So please let me know what you would like to see. So first and foremost, how does an account start? It takes a lot of work to get an account started. Now, when I started in business development almost 16 years ago, one of the primary ways that we built accounts was cold outreach. That means we knocked on doors, we went to clinics, we set up lunches, and we chatted with surgeons between cases, especially when they went to other facilities. Now, fast forward to 2025, and most large facilities are part of GPOs or larger hospital systems. And so you do have to either be part of their contracting system, which is like either a GPO, a group purchasing organization, which is a large national chain, kind of like a Costco of hospitals where they can get services and products at a discount. There's also requests for formal proposals, RFPs or RFQs, which is government proposals. And so those are the typical more formal channels. And that means you are filling out a formal bid, you're submitting pricing, you're submitting, your process and your leadership of your team, and it can take some time. Now, outside of that space, a few ways to help grow your region and grow your network of hospitals is to leverage your network and relationships, leveraging your staff and surgeon relationships and other reps. As a service provider in the neuromonitoring space for a long time, I utilized the relationships that my metal reps had with their surgeons to help me get in the door of other hospitals. It was very mutually beneficial. My team was good. They knew what they were doing, and the reps felt very comfortable that when they would bring my team in, the surgeon would feel comfortable and confident to use new equipment. So it was a really great symbiotic relationship. One step better than that is surgeon referrals, meaning a surgeon refers you to another surgeon they work with. A peer-to-peer referral also goes a long way. And then my favorite is having a surgeon champion that brings you into hospital administration and literally opens doors for you to get the hospital contract. These guys are few and far between, but when you have them on your side, it makes all the difference in the world. So once you get a signature, the work is not done. For a service company, especially if you are a professional service company that provides oversight, being you have physicians that come in, maybe you have other services, scrub techs, physician assistants, things like that. And if they have to go through med staff credentialing, that is an entire process. And sometimes it can take months and months and months, 6 to 9 months, depending on what their process looks like, because sometimes they have to wait for quarterly board meetings to approve new physicians. And even if they're just telemedicine or temporary staff, it's a huge process, especially for a big hospital system. Outside of that, you have tech credentialing or vendor credentialing, which everybody needs to go through. And sometimes they even need to go through additional allied health credentialing. There's the technology aspect where you have to confirm internet connections and make sure you're good to go live with, the proper amounts of hardware in the OR and that you can get everything that you need and the staff is prepared to utilize your equipment. So outside of that, setting, in services and making sure the team feels really comfortable, making sure you've got administrative alignment. That means billing. That means office staff are scheduling you for cases. You're setting expectations with the surgeons and parameters, and then you're documenting all of this for your team. So that way it's repeatable depending on who's going there. These are all ways to basically solidify before you have your first case that it's going to go well, that you've checked all the boxes before then. So once you have the account, and obviously if you think about that process, it's at least taken a year probably for you to get in the door. Once you think of like the bidding process, maybe you've had to do a lot of cold calling and groundwork and laying, meetings and things like that. A year later, you get the account. Now the real work comes in. There might be a lot of glory with getting the account, but the real work comes in keeping it healthy and maintaining it. So the two things that I consider the most important when maintaining an account are communication and issue management and education and engagement. Now, this goes out of the typical day-to-day, just regular service and making sure you're doing that well. These are kind of the additional platinum levels, so to speak, of account management. So communication and issue management, make sure you're escalating issues promptly, flag problems early, monitor the dynamics, make sure you've got the right people in the right account. If you are the person and you realize like, man, this doctor does not like me, I am not jiving with the staff, let your manager or your director know, hey, I think someone else might be better suited. Just be open, or, vice versa. If you're the manager and you can tell it's not going well, make sure you get somebody in there who's going to take really good care of the account so you don't lose it after all that work. Maintain consistency if you can. I always say if you're scheduling cases, make sure you have 2 primary people and then a tertiary person. And normally the tertiary person being the leader or the manager. That way they can kind of sub into almost any account. But try to keep 2 people pretty consistently, max to 1 surgeon. You don't want a ton of variables in their cases, and they don't love to see a bunch of different people. Address issues immediately, and then communicate via your team internally. So make sure if there's like a change in the way the doctor operates, that your whole team knows it. Even if it's small, they're going to think it looks really clunky if they tell one member of the team, and then the next day somebody new shows up and they don't know that this doctor does something different that he just let somebody know about yesterday. It just doesn't look good. So make sure you communicate things to your team internally. Education, engagement, a great way to kind of continuing to solidify the relationship. Make sure you have direct communication to the surgeon. Make sure somebody on your team is checking in with them. How are things going? Are cases going well? When there's issues, they know that they can reach out to some person. Make sure you're aligning on your scheduling practices. There's nothing worse, even when you hit the ball out of the park in the first week, if they get a new scheduler, it throws everything out of whack. So make sure you're in the loop. And if they get a new scheduler or a new clinic manager and they start doing things different, that you are in there in some way making sure you're still part of the phone tree, so to speak, and getting notified, and it's not going to send your operations to a halt. Because even if it's somebody else's fault, if you and your team aren't showing up for the cases or aren't notified, at the end of the day, it makes you look bad, and it's on you. So it's on you to fix it. Host regular in-services. I think just continually providing the staff with education is a good thing to do at least once a year, if not more, depending on the size of the facility and potential turnover. Larger facilities, especially academic facilities, are seeing a huge amount of turnover. And so you want to make sure the staff in the room understand either your equipment or your service and the risks with it. Like if you are doing neuromonitoring or something that does involve the potential of needle sticks, make sure that staff's aware, because that is a very bad day. One, when you get a needle stick, but I almost feel like it is worse when one of the staff members gets a needle stick, because that was you, and you're supposed to be there to protect the patient, and you end up causing potential harm to one of the staff members. Coordinating with the team, making sure, if you have certain protocols and certain things you need for your neuromonitoring or other services you're providing, that you've coordinated with the right people, namely anesthesia or even other surgeons. If you have an access surgeon coming in, make sure they're educated as well, and their team, if they need to be doing something to make sure the case goes well when the surgeon comes in after the access surgeon exposes. And then also, this is a bonus thing, get involved in what matters to them. If you are working at a hospital 3 times a week and they love getting involved in this one, charity for breast cancer because this nurse circulator survived cancer or passed away, or their husband, is big into animal rescuing, and whatever the cause is, if you can get yourself involved or your company involved, or maybe it's part of their culture to, go work out at a boot camp when they have a visiting surgeon come. That's was one of my accounts I did. And so just whatever's important to them, if you can kind of align with their values and get involved, and especially if you can get your company involved, even better. So this is just a quick overview for anybody who's new to the tech space, clinical specialist space, or even being a rep. These are just kind of some basic primary things to focus on before you get into more relationship building. I think sometimes people get really excited to prove that they're ready to handle like sales, relationship building, because that's where the big bucks are. But here's what you have to focus on first. First and foremost, technical excellence. You want to make sure you know your proverbial shit inside and out. You want to know your stuff. You want to know your core competencies. You want to make sure you understand the procedures and the value that either the service or the product you have can bring. You want to make sure that you are building credibility and trust before you're starting to try to sell them on more. The other thing would be professional confidence. Professional confidence and clear communication, I think, go hand in hand. But staying calm under pressure, we all know the OR can sometimes get very hectic, get very stressful. But when it's not, we want to know that people are doing their jobs, and we're only on high alert when we need to be. If you're working with somebody who's constantly an anxious mess and every case feels like it's going to be a disaster, that's a lot of energy to drain. So make sure you're exuding calm, professional confidence and speaking clearly, so when there is an issue, the surgeon can understand you. You are going up, you're trying to make eye contact. There's a lot of background noises. Sometimes there's music, sometimes there's the bovie and the drill, and anesthesia's got stuff going on. If it's a real issue, if like you are aware that there's a big problem, you might get yelled at. Turn the music off. It doesn't matter. If it's going to save somebody's life, step up, be clear, make sure they know and understand the gravity of the situation. Maybe there's nothing wrong, and you're just, hey, I'm so sorry, I need to check on this. Is this what's happening? Are you seeing this on your end? And if the surgeon's like, no, sorry, like I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay, thanks. I just needed to double check that. I'm going to go through and check a couple things on my end. I just wanted to make you aware my equipment's not working properly, or I'm seeing an issue on my end. I'm going to work to resolve it. I just wanted to make sure you were aware. one, even if nothing's going wrong in the case, if they think you're monitoring it or they think your equipment is teed up and ready to go and it's not, and you wait to tell them until there's an issue, they're going to be way more mad than you being forthright and just telling them right when you recognize it. Now, make sure too, in like the neuromonitoring space, check your protocols, check your technical things really quickly. But if you get the feeling, hey, this isn't anesthetic, this isn't like technical, I think something might be going on, speak clearly, be confident, ask to turn the music down. It's serious and it might not be real, but treat it as if it is until you know it's not. That, and then integrate with the team, learn the OR dynamics and the workflow, try to make people's lives easier. Little things like even opening the door when they're bringing the patient back if you're the only one with a free hand. If the scrub tech scrubbed in and nobody else is in the room, just saying, hey, I need to go run to use the restroom or go talk to the patient or X, Y, and Z. Are you okay before I run out? 9 times out of the 10, they'll say, yeah, I'm great. But if they're scrubbed in, literally their hands are tied, and if they're the only one that's in the room and they need something, it's a real pain in the rear to break scrub, do the thing, and then scrub in again. So if you help them out or just address like, hey, I'm leaving, or do you want me to let somebody know to come back so you have another person in the room? All those things just show that you're really attuned to the team and what's going on, and they matter. That and surgeon preferences, the more surgeon preferences you can be aware of outside of just your little bubble in space. Like if you know their Bovie settings, if you know like how they like the bed positioned, if you know they like this particular drill for this particular kind of case, you are going to be an absolute asset to that room. And you are going to, they're going to start noticing that, man, when this person's here, things just go well. I don't know what it is, but Logan just brings that to the room. So just make sure that you are kind of taking note of these things. I would say if we're looking at building blocks, build on it, your technical excellence first, your professional confidence, communication, integrating with the team, surgeon preferences. You don't want to just be remembering all the surgeon preferences, but not know your job. So look at these things as kind of fundamental building blocks. And then the last thing is immediate issue escalation. If you don't feel comfortable after a rough case reaching out to the surgeon to be like, hey, sorry about that, we'll make sure that X, Y, and Z doesn't happen in the future. How's the patient doing? Let your manager do that, because you do not want a lot of time to pass between a problem and somebody acknowledging it. So once you have nailed all that, you got your accounts, someone might come up to you and say, hey, you guys are doing so great. You've got all of your accounts in order. We want to grow the business. Can you go talk to this new doctor? They're starting at a new hospital and we love to bring them there. Maybe that's a little nerve-wracking, or maybe there's a new surgeon coming into your existing facility and you want to go talk to them to see if they're going to utilize your product or your service. So step 1, approach. Think of your agenda, go in and talk to them. Make sure you're telling them the plan. Hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time to chat about your services? The next step is to qualify them. Make sure that you are just checking right off the bat, are they a good fit for your services? Don't go into selling right away. Just ask them qualifying questions. Do you do this type of procedure? Have you used this type of product before? Do you utilize this type of service? That'll tell you, is the conversation worth having? Because you don't want to waste their time or your time. So qualifying questions first, and checking your assumptions. If you've done your due diligence and you have some background information and you just want to double check you're accurate, that's a good time to do it. The next step is find the need. If they're like, yeah, I do utilize that type of product, your competitors, or I utilize that type of service, your competitors, ask, okay, how's it been going? How's the workflow going? Or is there, any issues you've been having, anything like that? And then allow just open-ended questions to get feedback of it. They might say, no, it's perfect. Everything's great. And that might just end your conversation right there. Okay, great. If there's ever a problem, here's my card. We have a great company. If they allow you the space and time to talk about your product or talk about your company, that's next. Once you recognize like they're a good fit and you understand their needs, then you start selling the service or the product and why you guys are so great. While you're talking about selling the company, don't sell the company as much as you are solving their problem. You need to fill the need. You need to talk about how your either team or your product is going to solve their pain point or their problem. The next is, these are just so we're clear too, these steps are not in one meeting. These might be 5 or 6 touch points that you're building on, but this is just the clear workflow so you understand how the sales cycle works. The next is closing the deal, making sure that they're, yes, I'll introduce you to the hospital staff. Yes, I want to take you over there or over to this facility. And make sure that you've got a clear next step, and then cementing the sale. That means meeting key staff members and making sure that you are aligned on the rollout and you're doing all of the steps to implement before your first case. So if I was to break it down into like clinical tactics to get the sale, is one, with the clear agenda, ask them, do you have 15 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes? But just do not trick and trap them. Do not say, do you have 5 minutes when you know your spiel is going to take 25 minutes? Like, that's just rude, right? Be like, hey, do you have some time? If they don't, can I grab some time? Can we get coffee? Can we get lunch? Do you have time between cases? Do you have time between clinic? I would love 15, 20 minutes of your time. Don't catch them when they're at the scrub sink, when they have a minute and a half, and try to do a 20-minute conversation. They're waiting for another case. And even if they're the nicest person in the world and happy to like chat with you, the rest of the room is going to be really irritated that you are slowing down the case and the patient's on the table asleep and the surgeon's not in there because they're chatting with you. So don't trick and trap, just keep going, set the agenda. And if they're able to talk, talk to them about their qualifying questions, ask the fundamentals, about their services, their case volumes, their case mixes, chat with them about what products they use, ask open-ended questions. How have things been going? How's the workflow? Has things been running smoothly? No delays, no issues. And if they're, they might say, oh my gosh, yeah, this could be a lot better. Aha. Then you get your aha moment of, okay, I have a pain point. I've got something that I can help them solve. The next would be quantifying the impact, talking about actual documentation of case cancellations, add-on time, staff frustration, like really acknowledge like what one little problem could result into, and utilize that to kind of think, okay, I can really chat with them about all of the pain. And if you think of selling as like you're creating tension, and think of like pulling the rubber band, oh man, that must really irritate the staff. Oh gosh, I bet that means like you can't do as many cases as you want. And how many cases have you had to cancel because of that? And then all of a sudden, you move into releasing the tension with the next steps. So the next steps would be start sharing success stories, talking to them about, oh, people really like our product. This doctor has found that it's made their cases go smoother, or we prioritize, no delays, and we have local staff that make sure that we get here for your on call. Whatever it is, talk about site specific and surgeon specific plans that are going to make them feel special and utilize your product, your services to help their business as well as yours. Address objections. If they have, well, I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that, use a framework I like to call feel, felt, found. It's, well, okay, I'm feeling like you're saying this. Others have felt this and they've found this, right? Like this is leading with empathy, and then confirm that you've addressed the objection before you move forward. And then most important, request a pilot case, request the date, schedule it, and then see if they will introduce you to the key staff members. that are the next step in the process. So the toughest thing about sales, besides maybe cold calling, might be dealing with objections. And here's a guide for dealing with them. 1, surface it early. Ask flat out, what concerns do you have about our product, our approach, utilizing it on this case? Use that feel, felt, found framework. Connect to like their pain point and their need and move through it. You should have already uncovered this and talked about it. And then confirm before moving that you've actually addressed their issue. If you don't, that just says that you don't really understand them. So you really need to make sure that you've addressed the objections clearly before you can close the deal. And objections, well handled, are just like a thing. They are the thing that creates trust and cements, your relationship with them. It demonstrates you're listening, that you understand their concerns, and you have proven solutions. Never rush past it or don't address it. Address it fully and confirm. So, some of my favorite sales cliches I included here, because the reality is sales cliches are cliches because they're real. The first cliche is people buy from people they like. And the reality is people will buy from people who they feel safe with, for who they trust. So building that rapport, building that trust is really important. Next is the fortunes and the follow-up. I used to hear when I was in sales, it takes 10 touches to close a deal. So anywhere between 5 to 12 touches. And that means that you might get rejected 9 times before you get the 10th close. So don't give up, just recognize it takes time, and anything worthwhile takes effort and it takes time. The other, sell the problem you solve, not the product or service you're providing. So focus on solving their pain point and their product. Don't just throw features at them. It's super overwhelming. And they get that all the time. And honestly, it all sounds the same. But when you relate it to the problem that they solve, now they're thinking in terms of like their case workflow, how it's going to affect their patients positively, and you're getting them in that solution mindset. Also, if you confuse them, you lose them. So for me, clarity drives action. And I love, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Do not come in with, especially if you're a really bright technician or clinical service rep, maybe you know your anatomy in and out and your physiology, and you really want to impress this guy. Like if you go in there and you just start talking all of the complicated technical gibberish and you think, man, they're going to be really impressed that I know every muscle group and this and that, you're going to lose them, because they're not going to follow, like, what is this meeting about? Am I supposed to be buying this product? Am I supposed to be impressed by this person? Am I supposed to be hiring this person? Is this person trying to prove they're as smart as I am? You don't need to do all that. You just need to keep it very simple. This is your problem, right? Okay. This is what our product does. Here's how it solves your problem. Would you like to trial it? Simple. And then failing to plan is planning to fail. So the pros don't wing it. They prepare. You build trust on consistency. And so prepare for your meeting. If you want, research in your car about the surgeon, but prepare for the meeting. Don't just show up totally blind, and prepare for your cases. No risk, no reward. I see this as go big or go home. Ask for the business. Get that account. Make it count. And then my personal favorite, a no isn't a no forever. And for me, that means a no just means not now. That means, and I think that's a lesson for life personally. Your priorities shift, your risks shift. Don't take it personal, but understand, like, even if they say, nah, I'm not really interested, it's not a no forever. The other company could drop the ball. The other rep could not show up. The equipment could break. You could be called up to the majors at any point. So a no is not a no forever. Fortune is in the follow-up. Do not quit. Keep trying. And don't take it personal. Sales is game. So key takeaways are, make sure an account takes work. Getting it may take the glory, but maintaining it is where the real effort and work comes in. Start with your clear agendas when you're selling. Find the need. follow the 7-step process, handle objections proactively, maintain accounts with consistency, and remember, no is not a no forever. By the time you're watching this, you might not be able to join Kat's Successful Sales Rep workshop, but check out Kat Hurd. She's got a great workshop to dive more into sales fundamentals. So thank you guys for your time.